Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Leaders Network meeting for December 17th, our last one of the year. Let's get started with some WebEx tips. So for your convenience, here are a few things to note before we get started that will help make your WebEx experience the best it can be. You may change your audio connection at any time by selecting the audio dropdown at the bottom of the screen and selecting Change Audio. You'll have it call you, which we do recommend, especially if you're having some issues with bandwidth. You can turn your camera device on or off by clicking on the video button. You may use reactions, which is that smiley face icon. I know the team over there loves this, so please utilize that. And then you can open or close the chat panel by clicking on the chat button. You can also open or close the participants list by clicking on the participants button. We do encourage you guys to share your comments in there with us, and and later there will be some options for questions. So you'll type in your message at the bottom, make sure it says to everyone, and then we will see what you have to say to us. There is also this really cool closed caption button at the bottom left that you can use if you're having some audio difficulty. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to have some welcome messaging from Director Talk, and then we're going to hear about project management from Tanisha Charity and Michelle Huckabee. There's going to be an opportunity for questions pertaining to that presentation, and then we'll have some closing remarks, and then we'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Director?
Great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's great to be here. I have a few updates. Next slide, the Adopt an Angel. It's the holiday season, and that can always brings cheer, but it can also bring some stress and some financial strain. So that's why we developed the Adopt an Angel program every year, so that we can help ensure the children of ADOT employees experience a very special and happy holiday. So I'm proud to report that this year the program helped 43 families. More than 200 gifts were purchased by ADOT employees, and we also had 15 ADOT teams who adopted an entire family. So thank you to everyone who adopted an angel this year. It's really a very fun, special program designed to help our fellow ADOT employees. So thank you all. It's great to see so many people and the generosity come out. So speaking of generosity, we have, I'm happy to share that during the November last month, ADOT employees showed some major recognition and sent the highest number of shout outs in 1 week, 630. I think they compared, our average is 210. So that Thanksgiving gratitude really came out last month. So you are modeling what appreciation really looks like, and thank you for recognizing and the incredible people who keep our teams really moving, and your commitment and dedication has outshone in this month. So let's make this month even better this week. So next up, a big thank you to many ADOT employees who demonstrated also a strong commitment to serving our community by donating to the food drive. We collected more than 200 pounds of food, providing 182 meals for those that are in need, and we also raised more than $2,000. So a big shout out to our motor vehicle division employees who also gave generously. As part of the community connections, several office locations helped during the Thanksgiving holiday, and they are also organizing a toy and the supply drive for the holiday season. So please feel free to reach out and contribute if you feel like for that toy drive. Next up, we have Tanisha and Michelle here to talk about project management. They're going to be talking and providing us some skills. So very excited to have them here, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
All right. Good morning, Director, and good morning, colleagues. So thank you for being here. As Director said, I'm Tanisha Charity. I'm the Executive Officer to Deputy Director Teresa Wilborn. Next slide. So while not all of us may hold the title of project manager, many of us actually do have the opportunity to contribute to projects or even manage smaller ones in our day-to-day roles. So understanding some core principles of project management and its key stages is essential for successful project management. So that's why it's relevant. Michelle.
Thank you, Tanisha, and good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Huckabee, and I am with Financial Management Services as ADOT's controller. Next slide. Okay, perfect. What is a project? When we think about a project, it's not everything we do in our day-to-day work, but it's something specific. So we wanted to talk about what that is. It's something that interacts with other people. It has a beginning and it has an end. It seeks to deliver a change or a desired result. And it has constraints and involves unknowns. You can see 3 constraints here of time, cost, and scope. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tanisha to talk about the phases of a project.
All right, thank you, Michelle, for just giving us some key essentials of what a project actually has and its attributes. So now that we understand what constitutes as that project, we'll explore some of the phases that Michelle was mentioning. So our presentation will focus on these 4 key stages. This is actually going to demonstrate a structured approach that leads to successful outcomes. So the first phase is our initiation phase, which I'll talk a little bit more about in planning, and then I'll turn it back over to Michelle, who's going to talk about the execution of a project phase and then the closing of the phase. Next slide, please. So it's important to know that effective project management, it's not just about meeting deadlines or staying on budget. It's actually about aligning people, aligning processes, and achieving a collective goal while being easy to work with, collaborative, and result focused. So in the initiation phase, which is considered the first phase of the project lifecycle, this is where the project purpose, the objectives of the project, the scope, the feasibility, this is how it's all determined. In this phase, we identify what the project is and why it's needed. The first thing that I like to ask myself when I kind of walk into a project is like, what are we trying to solve? Yeah. So we set targets. Each target should be aligned with our overall project objective, and it also should be defined by using some of our SMART criteria, right? Is it specific? It's measurable, achievable? Is the project relevant and time bound? This allows the project to kind of remain on track, and it's also the framework for setting clear and effective goals. So creating these milestones, it really allows you to visualize the deliverables and phases of the project. I myself look at them as checkpoints. Next slide. The first step is to formally define and kind of authorize a project through a project charter. This document really outlines the project scope, the budget, and it actually identifies like all of the key holders and stakeholders in the project. So during this phase, it's essential to consider potential risks. You want to define the fundamental elements of the project and assign a project manager. This is actually my favorite part of the project. It's the initial kickoff when you're bringing people together.
Well, Tanisha, I like what you said about risk, because I think too often we start a project and we don't identify the risk and what can derail the project. And if we can identify that up front and we know it and we can address it and make sure that we're constantly looking at that, that's something I think we don't do a good job of normally.
Right.
So,
but I think it's always,
bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always something that you should always keep in your mind when
Yeah.
you're doing this project. And like I said, in that kickoff phase, which Michelle will talk about a little bit earlier, I think that's truly, where the project begins. So next slide, please. So as we kind of transition to the next phase, it's going to be that project planning phase. In the planning phase of this project, the project manager actually creates a plan on how the project is going to be executed and how it's tracked. And like the director was saying, it's how you control the project, right? So are there any deviations, as director had brought up, are there any corrective actions to keep the project on schedule and within budget? Very, very important to make sure that we're staying within the scope of the project. So this phase also includes how communication will flow throughout the project. In addition, this will include the formation of a project team where we establish roles and responsibilities, like who's doing what. In the planning,
That's important.
who's doing what? So in the planning phase, the team will develop the timeline of activities. These can be broken down as dates, including weeks and months, and that's a little tracker here on the side here, as you can see. All project schedules should include your project start date, your key deliverables, and then all of those projects and completion dates. The team will also review the budget for the work. Things to account for inside of ADOT, right, including our budget process, is does the project require multiple streams of funding sources? Federal funds, are we using grants? Are there state funds? Are there matches, etc.? Next slide, please. You should always review the project for any potential risks. Again, that scope creep. These are things that can happen after the project begins. For example, adding a new feature, changing a design. So how you manage, change, and define the project is very important. The biggest piece is budget overruns. Expanding the project requirements, cost of labor and materials and time, thinking about schedule delays. Is the project taking longer than it was actually planned to do? How does the weather impact the project? Last minute changes from stakeholders happen, and that could create a risk. Overall, you will need the support from all stakeholders to ensure you have the proper resources. So I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle, where she'll talk about the third and the fourth phase of project execution and some commencement. Michelle.
Thank you, Tanisha. Now we've hit the project execution part of your project. You've done everything you can to plan for your project effectively, and better planning is definitely going to make it easier to execute your plan. First, you're going to hold your kickoff meeting that Tanisha was talking about earlier. You're going to include your sponsor or sponsors and stakeholders, and it's going to set the tone for your project by going over goals and objectives of your project. It's going to also cover the scope and provide a high level of your project schedule, along with the milestones and critical path that you must stay on track with to meet your end goal. You'll also share your budget and the resources that are needed and how they will be met. You'll share quality expectations and how they will be met. And as Tanisha mentioned, how those risks will be limited. At the meeting, it will also be discussed what the approval process will be for approving the completion of deliverables. All of these things you have worked out during the planning phase, but now you're sharing this at the kickoff meeting. You're also going to determine when you are going to give status updates, how often you're going to have standing meetings, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly or some other cadence. After your meeting, you're going to want to send out notes that detail what was discussed in the meeting so that everybody has that to look back at, even those that could not attend the kickoff meeting. Next, you also want to meet with your team, whether you meet individually with them or as a small group, and you go over the tasks and procedures that they have before them, setting expectations, sharing start and end dates. It's a chance also to hear from them and any questions that they may have. Next slide, please. So getting a little further into the execution, during this part of the project, you're going to need to be organized as the project manager. You're going to have many documents that you will have before you. That could be the project plan, project diaries, contracts, Gantt charts with metrics. All of those things are going to have versions to them. You're going to need to keep them organized so you can get to what you need to and have a pulse on where things are at. Hugely important. Then, as a project manager, you're going to want to review your project plan daily. Pour over it. Make sure that you're on track. Your critical path in your timeline is on track, and that tasks that are about to begin are ready to begin, and that your budget is on track. Also, those project communications you laid out in the planning phase, you're going to want to execute on those, which includes holding those meetings, giving regular stakeholder updates. You'll also provide reminders and coaching and direction to your project team about things that are coming due. Also, as a PM, you're responsible for removing those obstacles and making decisions. Things will come up during your project. It's important to keep an eye out for them before they get a life of their own. Those bottlenecks, help resolve them and provide for the needs of the team. The obstacles may be related to the work itself, or it could be related to the team and how they're working together. Both are going to be important. Also look for process improvements along the way. Maybe there's a way to streamline things and keep things running more smoothly for you. Decisions will be executed according to plans, and bringing in other levels as required in this phase. And the last one on here is change management. You will want to track all changes that come up during the project, those requests, whether they are ultimately approved or not. In reviewing changes, it's important to determine whether the change will support the goal that you have for the project. And if it does, how much effort is needed and what will the cost be to make this change? A decision will need to be made, of course, following steps that you outlined during the planning phase. Remember the triple constraint I showed on the first slide of time, budget, and scope. If you change one of those, it will likely impact the others. Next slide.
Yeah,
Please.
it's a three-legged stool for sure.
Yeah. And as Tanisha mentioned earlier about defining metrics and setting those targets that you want to measure, now's the time where you're actually measuring those things. And that could be about timeliness, quality, budget. All of those are important. You're going to want to pore over those and look for issues that you need to address and try to address those timely. Remember, what gets measured gets managed. So this is hugely important to stay on track with things. Now on the next slide, we're going to talk about the closing out of your project. And that doesn't mean you can just wipe your hands off and you're done. There are still some things to complete, of course. We have here acceptance testing and reviews. Those may be needed in order to ensure that your project is complete. And what about a project sign-off? That's always a recommended step to make sure that the stakeholders and sponsors of your project are in agreement that your project is completed and what you set out to complete was achieved. Another best practice is a final meeting. This is an opportunity for you to get together like you did at the kickoff, but to thank your team, yes, but also discuss any lessons learned, because this will help you as you go into future projects.
That's so critical.
Yeah. There's always something that you're going to learn. Even if things went perfectly, there's always something that could have been better. And also this final report, this is an idea where you take what you planned, what your plan was, and you compare that with how you actually worked, how it worked out in the end, and compare for those variances. Again, looking for ways to improve on future projects. And then often maybe forgotten about, but should not be, is to store your key project documents very nicely and organized so that if you should need to refer back to them, they are where you can get to them. On the next slide, in summary, project management is not something to be taken lightly. It is your organization entrusting you with an investment of its time, resources, and money to achieve a specific goal that it wants achieved. So investing in proper project management skill set and mindset will help you be successful in this role. Don't be an accidental project manager. I'll turn it over to Tanisha now to wrap us up.
Thank you, Michelle. So as I was saying, in my opinion and how I operate, a successful project will always include our ADOT values, right? We want to be easy to work with your stakeholders, work with your community partners. You got to be collaborative and stay result focused, because remember, the end goal is the output. Next slide, please. So with that being said, both Michelle and I had an opportunity to jump on LinkedIn and look at some curated content. So if you want to expand your knowledge on project management, here are a few links that will be dropped in our chat here that you can go to expand your knowledge. Next slide, please. So with that, we have a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. I just want to thank you both. I think it's really important that we separate out projects from tasks. You know, we do the day-to-day checking email, whatever, but projects are something, and I'll commend Michelle because she just finished a huge project with the ACFR, and you're going to have to remind me of the acronym because
Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Yeah. And so kudos to Michelle and her team because they got it done faster, delivered like earlier than any time in the past.
Before they could enjoy, the team could enjoy Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Time and on budget.
Versus waiting until January. So, you know, the project management is, when I think of project management, I can even simplify it more in terms of, or apply it to my home life. Coming up next week, my holiday dinner, I have a start and an end, 2 days ahead of time. And then here are the tasks that I'm going to be doing. In order to make sure that all that food comes out all at one time, right? So really you can take those project management skills. I had a kickoff meeting with my family. What are we going to have to eat? You really can apply it in different ways. So it's a great opportunity. And lessons learned might be like, Mom, don't cook that again.
Paul asked, what are you serving?
Paul, I think we're gonna go with the traditional Italian dinner. So you'll like that.
All right. So yeah, that is pretty awesome. Yeah, project
You
management.
can hire a consultant for that. Yeah. Just like a project. Yeah. I didn't see if we had any specific questions.
I didn't see
What time should I be there? I did see where Monique had said scope creep. Yes, scope creep can really delay a project. So you always want to make sure that you have those proper controls in place when you're doing project management. And just be engaged. And like you said, you have a deliverable, as you were talking about that family dinner that you're doing. There's milestones you need to hit. I know when I cook dressing, my cornbread has to be done 2 days before.
Right, exactly.
The stuffing, right? Thanks, Director. Thank you guys all for listening to us. If you have any additional questions in the future, if you ever want to talk about project management, organization, or any of those things, I'm sure you can reach out to both me, myself, or either Michelle Huckabee.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy, safe holiday, and really looking forward. Thank you for everything that you do every single day, and looking forward to 2026 and what's going to happen there. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock.